Notes, check. Sunglasses, check. Hat, check. Thick skin, check. Let's go. Golden Blue Dude back with another video just for the college football fan. So hit that like and subscribe button if you are a college football fan. And go check out our Patreon page when you get a chance. A lot of perks over there. And don't forget our score prediction contest will start back up again in September. Every week we award $20 to whoever gets the closest to the exact score prediction of the game that I pick. The higher the Patreon, the more guesses you get. And you can win as many times as you want. Also, $5 and up Patreons get to pick the live stream that we're going to do. And you get to watch the game with me. And we have a great website designed and created by Joey Foster. Now time for today's video, and I'm going to be talking about Texas and Quinn Ewers. Last year, Texas had a terrible year, a terrible, horrific year. They actually got off to a decent start. They beat a decent Louisiana 38-18. They did go on the road to Arkansas and lose 40-21. Came back home, beat Rice 58-0, whooped to Texas Tech 70-35, and went on the road and took care of business against TCU 32-27. But then things changed. Rivalry game against Oklahoma, they had a significant lead. They blew it. Oklahoma came back and beat them 55-48. That was the beginning of the end. I've talked about how West Virginia let the loss to Oklahoma last year beat them twice. Texas let their loss to Oklahoma beat them 6 times. 6 times if you include the actual loss to Oklahoma. 6 times. Oklahoma beat Texas 6 times last year because after that game they were never the same. They lost to Oklahoma State in a close game at home 32-24. Went on the road to Baylor, lost in a close game 31-24. Went on the road to Iowa State, got obliterated 30-7. And then came back home and lost to Kansas in overtime, 57-56. Went back on the road to West Virginia. We took care of business, 31-23. And then came back home, somehow beat a decent Kansas State, 22-17. Finished the season 5-7. Not a good year for Texas. Fast forward to this year. Texas has hope because of their quarterback potential, Quinn Ewers. He's a 5-star recruit with a perfect rating. You cannot get higher than this rating. So they have high expectations. And this dude is actually pretty smart. He wanted to get money in his senior year at high school, but he couldn't do it in the state that he was in. So he reclassified to the state of Ohio so he could make money while he's still in high school. Made the Buckeyes think he was going to go there. And then entered the transfer portal, went back to Texas. Smart dude, except for the part of coming back to Texas. That's the part that's not so smart. Last year, Texas actually had a decent offense. 35.2 points per game. That was 18th. That's a top 20 offense. Their problem was actually defense. They allowed 31.1 points per game. That was 99th. How was their quarterback play last year? Well, Casey Thompson, the original starter, who's already transferred, he was 165 for 261. That's 63.2%. Threw for 2,113 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's not bad. That's not terrible. Slight dual threat quarterback, 55 carries for 157 yards, 2.9 yards a carry, and 4 touchdowns. And they also used Hudson Card, 51 for 83, 61.4%, 590 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Altogether, these quarterbacks were 216 for 344. That's 62.7%, 2,703 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So it's not like their quarterback play was the reason why they lost games. It was their defense. Now, Texas has the number 5 recruiting class this year. 2 5-stars, but both of them offensive linemen. 19 4-stars, 12 of them on defense. 3 cornerbacks, 1 linebacker, 1 safety, 4 defensive ends, and 2 more defensive linemen. So they did get talent in the transfer portal for the defense. Problem is, it's going to take time to develop that talent. So the guys that they had last year are coming back. Texas, once again, gonna have a bad defense. But there is a glimmer of hope. Quinn Ewers, the highly rated quarterback in his high school career, 450 for 643. That's 70%, 6,445 yards, averaging 257.8 yards a game, 73 touchdowns, and just 8 interceptions. Super high expectations for this young kid at Texas. But will they give him a chance? If he messes up a few times, doesn't have a great start, are they going to boo him out of the building and bench him? Or are they actually going to have patience? Remember, this is a young kid. Yes, perfect rating, but there is a different kind of speed when you go from high school to college. I've mentioned that several times. The speed changes from high school to college, from college to the NFL. The game has to slow down for these quarterbacks for them to get used to this game. Let's take a look at Texas' schedule and see how that sets up. Well, first they get UL Monroe. I think that's a definite win. Then they get Alabama at home. I think that's a definite loss. Then they get UTSA at home. 50-50 football game because UTSA is a good team, but I'm leaning towards Texas. They go on the road to Texas Tech. Road game 50-50, but leaning towards Texas. A home game against West Virginia 50-50. Yes, I'm leaning towards Texas on that one. In the rivalry game against Oklahoma, 50-50 football game. Leaning towards Oklahoma on that one. Home game against Iowa State, 50-50. Leaning towards Texas, though. At Oklahoma State, I think that's a definite loss. At Kansas State, definite loss. Home game against TCU, I think that's a definite win. You go on the road to Kansas, and I know Kansas beat them last year, but I have that as a definite win for Texas. I think that was a fluke last year. And then the last game, a 50-50 football game against Baylor. It is at home, but I expect that to be a loss for Texas. So right now we're looking at a 7-5 record for Texas, and that's me being generous. Is that enough for Texas fans to have patience with Quinn Ewers? Remember, he could have went to Ohio State. He probably could have went to Alabama, USC. All these teams that are primed to either make the playoffs or have a double-digit win season and have a chance to win their conference. Texas, you're not getting to the playoffs. You're definitely not getting to the national championship, and you're probably not winning the Big 12. So count yourself lucky that you landed this guy. Have patience with him. Now, I said from the beginning, firing Tom Herman and hiring Steve Sarkisian made no sense. Tom Herman had Texas going in the right direction. I think they hired Steve Sarkisian because they knew they were headed to the SEC, and Steve Sarkisian was an assistant at Alabama, so he knows the SEC. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Ask West Virginia when we hired Dana Holgorsen specifically for the Big 12. Didn't turn out well for us. So hopefully Texas fans will have patience with this young kid because he's a dynamic player. He's capable of being an elite quarterback in college football, but Texas isn't primed to be a big-time contender this year. You don't have the defense. Maybe the year after or 2 years from now, Texas will be a contender. As long as you don't run him out of the building and bench him. Have patience. Quinn Ewers is the future of Texas, and Texas fans better realize that and be grateful and give this guy a chance. So a 7-5 season, get to a bowl, build off that. And who knows, maybe there's some wins in there that I don't see. Maybe Texas does have a chance to go, say, an 8-4 or a 9-3, or if that defense really improves, a 10-win season. But anything beyond that, I just don't see possible this year. Y'all let me know in the comments section, how well do you think Texas will do this year? Do you think they have a bounce back year? And do you think they have the patience for Quinn Ewers? Maybe he does have a breakout year this year, and Texas does better than what I think. But if it goes the direction that I think it will Texas fans have the patience to let this guy develop? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.